Hey Copper Nerds, let's do a deep dive into the Sheldon 38 variety of 1794 large cent. This is my Sheldon 38. What I love about the 38 is the heavily marred field, and one of my other favorite diagnostics, single berry on the reverse. Let's get into this one. So what's cool about the Sheldon 38, and if you haven't seen my cherry picking guide for 1794 cents, maybe check it out, because I talk about my 3 favorite diagnostics for you to be looking out for. One is the heavily marred obverse. This is one of 3 that have that. All are rare. As well as the single berry reverse, of which there are several, all rare. Let me double check. It looks like we have reverse M, and that one's a single berry, which has 3 different varieties. 36, 37, and 38 are all very rare. And then reverse L is going to cover 34, 35, and NC1. Again, all are rare. So if you get a single berry reverse, it's one of 2 reverses covering 6 rarities. Every time you see a single berry, it's a rare coin. And every time you see a heavily marred field, it's going to be a Sheldon 38, which is the least rare of the 3, or a Sheldon 39, which is one of the rarest varieties. In fact, there's my Sheldon 39. See that mar? Love it. Or a 40. And my 40 is hideous, but I love it, so I'm actually going to bust that one out for our next deep dive, even though there's not a lot of diagnostics on it. But I got it from my buddy Jim Carr last summer, and it's one of my favorites. Okay, let's focus in on the 38 in specific. Love this variety. This is a fun coin. I can't remember all the provenance. New Cumberland collection, Doug Bird, I think. Yeah, I got my list right here. Why am I guessing? My Sheldon 38 has the following provenance. DNS Coins, Tom Reynolds, Ken Myers, New Cumberland collection, through Sean Yancey to me. It's a cool coin. I got a few of Birds too, but obviously that's not one of them. The less time I spend with my individual coins, the more I forget what the provenance are, which is why I keep it all carefully noted and kept with my coins, and I would suggest that everyone do that. It's also listed in the registry at 1794largecents.com. So maybe I'll go ahead and show that off right here. Okay, Sheldon 38, marred field. Now keep in mind that your 30 and 31 are also going to have a marred field and are in fact the same die, but the mar is far less developed on those 2. It really pops here, and that carries again through the next 2 without much change. That's really your big diagnostic. This actually used to be the double lower lock obverse before they planed away the shallow second lock, which I believe was covering up for damage inside of the lower hook on the main curl. I've got a video where I discuss that in some detail. But yeah, you're mostly looking for that big old marred field. That's your big diagnostic giveaway for this particular obverse. Reverse, again, single berry left of the bow. On one of them, these leaves point at the C. And on the other, they point between the C and the A. So that's how you're going to tell those apart. Let's jump into Breen's Encyclopedia next. Sheldon 38. Oh, we're close. Somewhere in between. 36, 37, 38. All right. 2 field chips below cap. talked about those, the heavily marred fields. Single berry left of O, leaf to C. We talked about both of those. Yeah, the obverse is reworked again from 30 and 31. And the lowest lock is again single and heavy because the light lower, second lower lock of hair has been planed away through resurfacing of the dye. Shoulder loop is now very thin. The pole and the numerals are thinner, again from resurfacing the dye and losing some of the shallower portions of those devices. Reverse N is often weak at the upper right, possibly due to axial dye misalignment, and mine is weak on the upper portion. Both right and left, though. And that could be some axial dye issue, actually. The top is fairly weak and the bottom is nicely struck. Mine has a little bit of environmental damage, so I'm never sure exactly what the cause was. Dennis Loring had, I would imagine he sold it since then, a reverse brockage, attributed by Dye State in the Oops chapter. That might be fun to check on. All right, Oops. Have the reverse brockage. There we go. Look at that. That's pretty sweet. Okay. As far as condition census goes, we've got a couple in AU and then it jumps down into very fines. See what the next page shows us. Yep, drops down to about a fine 15. So these are a tough variety. They are, yeah, the most common of the three that have the heavily marred field, but more and more come out of the ground every day, and honestly, the rarity downgrade is not a bad thing. Those are filling in at the bottom of the condition census for the most part. Generally, the finest examples have been well tracked for a lot of time. Let's take a look at noise. Skipping forward to the 38. Here we are. Marred field, single berry left of bow. Marred field obverse, 2 large dye chips in the fields, back of the lower curls. Again, lapped in a continued attempt to reduce these dye chips behind the curls, but they get worse. And then the lapping has merged the lowest double lock, reducing it back to a single U-shaped, the heavy lower lock. On early strike, some remnants of the second lock can still be seen as a faint line inside of the loop and passing through the curl. Interesting. And the reverse, second single berry reverse. Only a single berry adjacent to the left side of the bow. And Dye State's nothing real exciting. As far as our condition census, some nice ones up top. An AU, an XF, and a VF are the top 3. Down to a 20 by the bottom of the first page. Oh, look, we go quite a ways. We're into some fines. And then we get down into some very goods by the time we get to 18. And you can see mine doesn't fall a whole heck of a lot before that, or below that. So I have a fairly decent example. It's not in the top 20, but it's not a bad coin at all. And last but not least, let's check out Chuck Heck's Dye States book. There's not a whole lot going on with Dye States on this one, but we'll still take a look. Page 97. Looks like it's going to be just 2 pages. Sheldon 38. Yeah, it says, go ahead and review Sheldon 31 and 36 reverse before reading this chapter because they're going to be the same, right? So the Sheldon 31, we see where that Mar was small, and then there was two of them, right, that were small, and then they get much bigger on the 38. You can see where the double lower lock was for the 31, and it has been planed away by the time you get to the 38, and note again that the numbers are thinner. And then, of course, you can see that we have the same letter spacing, but the letter shape is different. They had sort of the curved bottoms of the letters on this early deployment, and they sort of filled them in at the bottom with a few remnants remaining. So that's fairly interesting. So again, die state 1 here, the die was extensively reground and resurfaced, got rid of the lower lock. These chips got bigger. That's what happened when we switched over from 30 to 31 to 38. They do make her forehead look weird with the re-engraving. That's something that I'll point out with some zooms. The 38 compared to the 30 and 31, it's weird. Look at that. Chuck's calling it the grotesque head. Yeah, it's really kind of gnarly. Die state 2, the chip is becoming more obvious. Comment on what is to come. I've always wondered why S-38 is so rare. Neither die appeared to have significant problems, and the next use of 39 is even more rare, which it is. And again, that's my 39 right there. 39 is super, super rare. To better understand the issue, he superimposed the 39 reverse onto a 39 obverse. Clash marks were not even close to lining up. Superimposed the 38 reverse over the 39 reverse, and the clash marks did line up. Wait a minute. I say that as he says, wait 1 minute, please. Since the obverse for 39 is the same as 38, why do we never see a specimen of the 38 with any clash marks? As was stated in Shakespeare in Love, it's a mystery. Chuck's theory. Perhaps the 31 obverse die was reworked to be used for 38 and was also rehardened. When the dies eventually clashed, the reverse die immediately shattered and no additional 38s were ever produced. Oh, okay. Picking up a clash on a variety that never came into production, or there were so few that it never actually discovered any for collectors. New reverse die was inserted in the press to create Sheldon 39, and the obverse die was not resurfaced. And then continue reading on through Sheldon 40 after 39. And we're going to get to those eventually, but for now we're focused on the 38. So again, not a lot going on with die states. Interesting connection to the double lower lock varieties of Sheldon 30 and 31. And again, a rare obverse with the 39 being the next one we're going to go through. But I love that marred field. You can see that the forehead is very weird and grotesque is a good word for it. Really, this is sort of an ugly face on Liberty, particularly when you consider that this die started off with a beautiful depiction of Liberty. And I'm going to make sure and show off and show some labeling of the progression from 30 to 31 to 38 through 40. Thanks for checking this one out. Feel free to hit me up in the comments, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.